The next Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden and Limited list will be a crucial one for Konami. After a pretty weird showing of a format that people didn't really seem to like in the NA and EUWCQ, multiple pro players announcing their retirement from the game like Gabriel Susi, and pros like Dinkham Pham and Christian Urena just moving to Lorcana because the pricing and the game is just better. And of course you can't forget that the TCG is actually getting a new Maxi in the new Mulchami card, Mulchami Fuwaros, that is straight up gonna bring Maxi into the TCG and a playstyle that people don't really like. So with all that being said, Konami has a chance to make this next Forbidden and Limited list impactful and making sure that players stay on. And besides that, the ban list is also a ban list for the World Championship that will take place in Seattle in the beginning of September, which means that some of the changes here may affect the format there as well. While in parallel, the competitive year is starting a bit earlier this year, so it will also take effect then. So, a lot of weight on Konami's shoulders, but we're here to discuss what Konami should and possibly will do with the next Forbidden and Limited list. If you like this type of content, make sure to like the video, subscribe if you are new here, and let's dive into talking about the first most wanted deck. It's Snake Eye. So Snake Eye has been dominating basically since February, where Phantom Nightmare came out and released the second wave of support, and of course Promethean Princess, Bestower of Flames, and the deck has been controlling the TCG. It's been hit already twice in the OCG, with now Wanted being at 1, Snake Eyes Ash being at 1, and now it's for sure going to get hit on the Forbidden and Limited list in the TCG to some capacity. One option to go with is banning Flamberge Dragon, and this is something that I've already made a video about because it's been a problem for a while. Flamberge is the meat of the deck, besides Snake Eyes Ash, that could go to 1 potentially, which is just a consistency hit that I don't personally like because you can get to that card and you have the Fiendsmith engine to back it up, but it's something that did happen in the OCG. The reason I think Flamberge going to 0, or even possibly Snake Eyes Poplar being banned, one or the other, could just kill the pure Snake Eyes strategy without any consistency hits, leaving Wanted and Diabellstar as an engine for future support like Azamina in Rage of the Abyss, and it basically take out the most annoying extension part of the deck. Flamberge serves 3 roles in Snake Eye. One, it's an extender that turns itself into another 2 bodies, which is extremely powerful. It insulates you from Nibiru by doing that, and you can just keep it on the board until you have a negate, and because you can spam infinite bodies, it's just a really strong pillar of the deck. It's also an interruption, and it can put stuff your opponent controls into the spell and trap zone and clear their board. And it's also follow-up because you can pop it with Promethean Princess on the next turn, or use it as link material with IP, and that gives you 3 bodies and tons of follow-up for your next turn when you survive. So it might go. Poplar, obviously a great extender and a searcher that has merit to get banned, but people are also looking at this from a different angle, where they're actually saying that the Snake Eye engine is fine, but the end board is not, meaning that people consider IP Masquerena and even Appaloosa Bow of the Goddess as possible ban contenders. Personally, in my opinion, I think Appaloosa and IP are good tools for the game. I also like Borlode Savage and Link Haribo, and I'm sad that they got banned because of Snake Eye. So, given the fact that if a deck can just spam out bodies, they can make an Appaloosa, which is essentially, some people say, is a floodgate, and IP being an interruption in your opponent's turn, I'm not sure I would love to see those go, personally, because I just think that extra deck design is pretty cool, unless it's specifically Baron the Fleur. And another thing is that Snake Eye is relatively hit in the OCG already, and Fiendsmith has just come out. It's obviously really strong in Snake Eyes, and Konami have said in their tweet that they're going to look into the impact of Infinite Forbidden and then decide on the ban list. This is what they're doing right now. So in terms of the Fiendsmith engine, this is going to make a big impact for Worlds, because Fiendsmith is in full power in the OCG and is basically holding everything together. But I think that Fiendsmith Lacrima, the fusion that burns for some reason, could see itself on the ban list at some point. I think it's just a cheesy way that we've seen a lot of players win with over the last 2 weekends in the NA and EUWCQ. And I think that a lot of games just ending on the fact that you have a generic card in your extra deck that can just burn, that you can get to consistently, and with decks playing a bit longer now, it becomes a really powerful card. So if any Fiendsmith card is hit, it's probably the Fusion common card, right? Moving on to Tenpai Dragon, which actually got first place in the EUWCQ, a very ignorant deck. Extremely strong, can just sit and look at you combo and then break your board in OTK at one turn. And the fact that it also has a field spell that makes all your monsters unaffected for some reason. Combining that with a Synchro 10 that says you can't activate cards in the battle phase means that you basically have to sit there and watch them kill you. And by the way, it's already been hit in the OCG. Sanguine Summoning, the field spell, is currently limited, and cards that are also played there, like Pot of Prosperity, which is also limited, and Dimension Shifter, which is at 2 in the OCG, make it so that the deck isn't really playable at this point. So with Dimension Shifter, I don't think we have a discussion, right? Look at me, we want it banned, right? Yeah, leave a comment below if you don't want Dimension Shifter banned. That will be an easy fix for a lot of decks. But also, Pot of Prosperity has been at 3 in the TCG in forever, and in the OCG and in Master Duel, the card is at 1. I think the hyper consistency that Pot of Prosperity provides, even though it helps rogue decks play, is a bit too much sometimes. I've been an advocate for limiting Prosperity for a long time, and I'm hoping this ban list will be it. Another thing that is an option on the table for Tenpai is making Hieratic Seals of Heavenly Spheres forbidden. I know it's a very hot take, and I know Dragon Link players will be mad at this take, but consider this. A Link 2 that is pretty easy to summon out for some decks, that can summon anything from your deck, those usually get banned. Think of Halki Firebricks for an example. So even though it hits the ability of Tenpai to go first significantly, maybe they just want to go that route. I'm not a huge fan of that decision, but that is a possibility. Sanguine Summoning could also get hit because in Worlds it's going to be at 1 anyway, so maybe they just want to even the playing field and just hit it with consistency. Overall, the deck is very ignorant, it's not super fun to play against, and I personally want to see it get hit, but I think it's okay for now. Another deck that actually made the finals in the EUWCQ was Ritual Beast. I think Ritual Beast as a whole is absolutely fine, but one card really stands out. A card that was actually unbanned in the recent list. And you know what it is? It's Arch Nemesis Protoss. This card was banned for a reason. It floodgates your opponent from an attribute for 2 turns. And it's really strong in Ritual Beast specifically because it has access to every single attribute. So, combining a lot of attributes with Protoss means you can basically call whatever attribute you want, whether it's Dark for things like Yubel, or Fire for things like Snake Eye, and just FTK them on the spot. So, personally, bring that shit back into the forbidden list immediately. Yubel is a very strong contender in this format. It's been seeing a lot of success. I personally really enjoy playing Yubel as well, even though it puts out some ignorant boards. I think it's really fun to pilot. The one take that I can give maybe, and please don't hate me, I don't want this to happen, but I can see Phantom of Yubel going to 1 at some point. It might be a little bit too early now, but the fact that Phantom of Yubel can be summoned as many times per turn as you want, basically 3 because those are the 3 copies you have, and you can summon it by shuffling from your hand, it's really absurd. You have to admit that starting with a shuffle back, putting a Phantom on the field as your first action is rough. And also, it's just a free extender because you can summon them as many times as you want and you just return the materials to the deck to use them once again with Spirit of Yubel. So even though it's a little bit crazy, I don't think this ban list is the time, but I can definitely see Phantom of Yubel going to 1 at some point. And again, going back to Apollousa, this is also an endboard piece for Yubel, so maybe it's a 2 for 1. Branded is already pretty hit in the OCG, so it's very unlikely you'll see it in the World Championship. Branded Opening is at 1 and Branded Fusion as well. Even though they have Grass at 1 right now in the OCG and people do play that in Branded, I think there's basically 2 options to hit Branded right now. Either you go in the Master Duel route of recent times where they banned Gimmick Puppet Nightmare and Edo the Supreme Magical Force, or you ban Albion the Sanctifier Dragon. I think both are fine. I would rather keep Sanctifier, but I understand people really want the card gone because there are other locks. Please don't comment Ra's Disciple. No one's making Ra's Disciple in 2024, but I think banning Puppet, Edo, or Sanctifier is absolutely fine, and it should happen, and I really want the deck to just lose Puppet and be able to play its own cool engine. We also saw that in round 11 in the EUWCQ, shout out to Nicholas, running Branded without Puppet and resolving Mirror Jade 4 times per turn, which is cool. Runic Stun also saw great amount of success in the recent EUWCQ. I think that there are two takes here. One, Runic Engine is toxic of banishing like cards from your deck. I think that's understandable, but also the deck is kind of held together by things like Rivalry, Skill Drain, Synchro Zone. I wouldn't mind seeing Runic Tip go to 1. I think the card is incredibly strong for the strategy, but I can also see them just maybe banning Rivalry of Warlords and maybe limiting Skill Drain again. I think those two takes are definitely viable. I don't think anybody enjoyed Skill Drain at this point, and I think all those continuous trap can just go fuck themselves. And one last card, Crossout Designator. With the release of the new Mulchami card that is basically a maxi, does Konami want to take the game in a strategy where you can't really interact with it? Which means that Crossout Designator might be on the list. Right now, it is at 1 in the OCG to keep the game state even. You know, they design decks that are very strong, then they design hand traps to stop them, but then they design cards that punish you for playing hand traps like Crossout and Talent, so I don't really get the strategy there. But what I do know is that if Konami wants to push Mulchami further, they need to hit Crossout. And with Crossout being just a randomly kind of dumb card to begin with, then I think it might actually go to 1 in the following list. And we're not taking any card out of the ban list because there is going to be later this week another video of which cards should come off the ban list. Zodiac Trident, anyone? So make sure to stay tuned, click the bell for notifications to know when that goes up. And those are my takes. Here's a little bit of a summary on the screen right now for you. Those are possible takes, but I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. As always, I'm sure you're not going to be saving any opinions from me at all times. Thank you so much for watching up until this point. Make sure to like, subscribe for more videos. We're going to do a ton up to the World Championship, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.